Welcome to Transformational Pathways, a podcast created by Toastmasters District 46 in the greater New York area, where we share conversations from influencers within the Toastmasters community and people whose lives have positively transformed by walking down the Toastmasters path. Whether you're just getting started in your career, have had recent career changes, or you're navigating different languages, we're here to help you build confidence by discovering new tools, overcoming your fears to find your voice, and engaging in a thriving community. Enjoy today's episode.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Transformational Pathways. I'm so excited to introduce to you our guest of the day, Stella Umunna. Hi, Stella. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Anu. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Thank you, Stella, for joining us. I'm so excited to have you here. I'm sure our audience will also be equally excited to learn more about you. I see that you work in STEM, and that excites me a lot because I have a background in software engineering and IT, and I see you share the same kind of background. And there's a lot to understand about why software engineers come to Toastmasters and how public speaking could benefit a lot of techies like us, right? So, yes. Stella, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, your growing up years, where you come from, and a little bit more about your background.
Okay. Yes. So my name is Stella Umunna. I was born in Nigeria and grew up there mostly. And when I was 18, I moved to the United Kingdom. I am a biochemist. I studied biochemistry as my first degree. And then I went to the UK and decided to become a software engineer. So I did a master's degree in computer modeling in the UK. And then after that, I moved to the US. So I'm a software engineer with a lot of experience in this field. And as a female and software engineer of color, I've always wondered why there couldn't be more like me. Most of the time in any meetings that we have, you hardly see any women in our field. Also, you hardly see any people of color, especially Black or African American people. So I've made it my vision to get kids K to 12 into the STEM pipeline and help them develop a lifetime interest in science and technology, which is my specialty. It's my belief that science gives learners an in-depth understanding of the world around us. So STEM is very, very important to everyone. STEM education gives people skills that make them more employable and ready to meet the current labor demand.
That's very inspiring, Stella. I think what you mentioned towards bringing in more people, younger people, women of color into STEM is very powerful. As I was telling you a little earlier, just before we started the recording, I was at this event last week, which is called International Girls' Day in ICT. And I met a lot of young kids, college-going kids, school kids, girls, who are interested in STEM because they see that it'll empower them and help to shape a better world for them, right? And I see there's a lot of potential in what you're doing. It's really very inspiring. Now, fun fact, I have a degree in biotechnology and biochemistry.
Oh,
And then I went into the IT field. So I really didn't do much with my degree as such, but it's interesting to meet another person who shares some kind of similarity in background in terms of education and, meeting you in the field of tech. Could you tell me a little bit more about the work that you're doing for young girls and women to come into STEM?
Okay. So, I have a son, and I have several nieces who I'd love to get into the STEM pipeline. One thing I know is that kids enjoy playing games. So why not just use the same game environment or gaming environment to teach them STEM subjects? Most of the time, I think the problem is that people think that STEM or STEM engineers are geeks. So they don't find it very sexy to get into the STEM field. But that's not the case because technology is very important in this day and age. Everything is linked to technology. So we have to make sure that we bring more girls, we may bring more people of color into the field because we don't want things being developed just in one way with one point of view, which is more of a male point of view. We need to have diversity in the field so that things can be developed for us, not being developed from another perspective. So that's why it's very, very important to my product. I'm building an app which uses gaming as well as videos and makes the STEM learning very interactive. So they wouldn't even know that they're actually learning, but they will find that very, very interesting. And the name of my product is STEM Casa. The interesting thing is that I have a lot of young people working on the product. A lot of them are girls. In fact, most of my teams, I only have one gentleman on the team, but all my team, they're all girls. So the product is going to be developed by young girls, for us, by us, as they say.
Wow, that is amazing. So STEM Casa, is it available in the market today?
We're still in the development phase, but we're hoping to launch by the end of the year.
Wonderful. I wish you all the best with that. What I liked a lot about the work that you're doing is that you're getting young girls to build it. And I think what you said really resonates with a lot of people, that representation matters.
Yes.
Very recently on LinkedIn, I saw this post where someone had mentioned they were walking down a shopping aisle and they came across band aids in the color of their skin.
Yeah.
And it never struck me in all my life that the Band-Aid color actually mattered, but they found something that matches their skin tone, much darker than the usual Band-Aid that you see in the market, right? And that's what, everybody can relate to. Your representation matters. So if you use a solution built by you for yourself, it's a lot different than when someone else is thinking for you and building it on your behalf, right? So
Yes, because so some things like especially also the continent of Africa is not really represented. For instance, I work on some AI technology using like Amazon's Poly, which converts text to speech. And there's no dialect for any African country really. There's mostly like India, the US, the UK, but there's nothing for Nigeria, which is where I come from. So, I would like to, apart from getting people in the STEM, girls in the STEM field from here, I would also like to be more inclusive so that things can be built in Africa too, not just in one area. Again, we need diversity in the field so that the world will become a better place in general if we do that. Yes.
now, you just mentioned something very important, having dialects of a specific region, so more users from that area or region can relate to it, right?
Yes.
What are some of the other challenges that you are seeing in this field of tech?
Okay, so most of the challenges is that we we don't really most of the time there are lots of jobs available. We always have recruitment. We always have jobs available, but not enough people to fill those positions. And meanwhile, we have a lot of people of color who are either underemployed or not employed. So why don't we fill those positions? A lot of people, like I think they've marketed the marketing is more on the sports side. Everybody wants to be the next soccer Ronaldo, or they want to be the next Kobe Bryant. But I think we need to market the STEM field more too, because as we can see, most the technology has had the biggest impact on the world, and it will help solve a lot of the problems that the world is facing today, including global warming, hunger, and other things. Most of the problems in the world can be fixed by using technology. So we need more people working on this and solving complex problems every day.
Yes, that's true. I want to come back to this topic of STEM and the challenges that you see is there in bringing in more younger people from, say, Nigeria and Africa. But before that, I want to ask you another question. You mentioned growing up in Nigeria, moving to the UK, and then coming to the US. Obviously, you've lived in three different continents with very diverse cultures. What have you learned over the past few years, having lived in different places?
Okay, so I found out that like there are more similarities than we think, as opposed to being differences. So the difference is that a lot of the places like in the US and as I say in the UK too, a lot of money has been pumped into research and technology. And that I think that's the main game changer. For like in Africa, Africa is still a developing nation. So I guess we're still trying to solve all the infrastructure problems. So that's one of the reasons why technology is really isn't up to snuff, because we have to provide light, we have to provide running water and electricity for people. So people are still trying to solve basic problems. So that's one thing that we need to work on. So apart from that, human nature is pretty much the same. We all have the same needs. We all need to go from point A to point B. We all need to eat. So in the end, we all the same way we've solved problems in the developed nations is the same way we can solve the problems in the developing nations. So we have good examples, like for instance, India or China. They weren't as sophisticated or developed as they were before, but now they are. But that's because their government spent a lot of time and energy developing infrastructure and developing technology. So I'm hoping that the same will happen for Africa, my continent where I come from.
Yeah. And what do you think are some ways in which awareness can be spread about this?
There are lots of ways. In this day of social media and technology and the phone, there are a lot of ways to do that. We have to have constant campaigns. I mean, we have to have campaigns built around sending that clear message to the leaders of Africa, or even encouraging young people to join the technology and STEM fields, even in Africa. Provide more scholarships, provide more ways for them to do things so that they can empower themselves and become better people.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, somewhere along this journey, you joined Toastmasters,
Yes,
which is why we are talking today.
correct.
Tell me a little bit more about what made you join Toastmasters and how it transformed your life.
Okay. So I first learned for about Toastmasters about 10 years ago from my friend called Anne McLean. She had a lot of positive things to tell me about Toastmasters and the benefits of joining Toastmasters. At that time, I was interested, but I couldn't participate because of time constraints. So last year, I was lucky to be selected to participate in the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program. The program was great, and it gave me excellent tools to run my business. As part of the course, I had to do a self assessment as a leader and as a person. And one of the things on the list was to improve my public speaking skills. Hector, my business advisor on the course, mentioned Toastmasters, and I decided to take up the challenge of joining Toastmasters. I'm a scientist, so I believe there's a science behind public speaking. And in that way, I decided to explore these options using Toastmasters. I did a search on the internet, and I became a member of the Hudson River Toastmasters Club in August of 2021. Since joining, it's been a pleasant and life changing experience for me. Right off the bat, I noticed that many members had been there for a very long time and continue to remain members. When I joined, I was assigned a mentor, and his name is Tom Marino, who helped me along the journey. The warm and friendly, non judgmental environment of the Toastmasters Club brings out the best in any person. I love their pathways system because it gives you a chance to learn at your own pace. One thing, we've been talking about diversity a lot. I also noticed that the club is very diverse. So you get a chance to mix with different people from various backgrounds. So the fact that you present and evaluate speeches all the time, it will help you to learn and improve. Every Toastmasters meeting is a chance to learn something new. And of course, your mentoring system is genius. And guess what? I joined in August and I became a mentor to someone in my club, which is excellent. Being a mentor has greatly improved my leadership skills. One thing is that I intend to use my Toastmasters journey as a blueprint for success in my company. The main point is that all organizations should provide a non judgmental, friendly environment for their employees to succeed. As we know, soft skills are just as important or essential as hard skills. Joining Toastmasters has helped me improve my communication skills. As part of my job, I need to communicate design plans and share ideas with my clients all the time. And now I'm always ready to go as soon as my clients say, pitch me something. Toastmasters has also encouraged me to come to the forefront. I'm usually, as a technology person or geek, I'm used to being in the background. I don't usually really come to the forefront. But since joining Toastmasters, I've been on several committees, including the 30th anniversary committee for my club, Hudson River Toastmasters. I've been on the PR committee. I've participated in 2 speech contests. I've been a speech contest judge and a ballot counter. And now I'm here as a guest on the Toastmasters podcast. What a journey it's been for me. And I thank Toastmasters for making this happen.
Wow, that's truly transformational. Your journey with Toastmasters itself is a speech. I think you kind of delivered it without filler words. Now, that for non Toastmasters is something you need to find out by joining a Toastmaster program near you, what we mean by that. But amazing. It's very inspiring to hear what you have achieved and what you've been able to contribute back to Toastmasters in the short time that you've been with this program, right?
Yes.
With this community. It's amazing. I agree with you. A lot of Toastmasters continue to stay even after the initial goals of public speaking and communications have been achieved. They stay because this is a community that grows even richer as more and more people contribute and you build friendships and relationships. I wouldn't use the word networking here at all. It's all about
Yes.
friendships and relationships and contributing because it really takes a village to keep this going. And
Yes.
I think what you touched upon is very poignant for a lot of techies in that STEM needs to be combined with good communication skills. You might be great at building products, you might be great at coding, but for a lot of businesses, that's happening in the back end. But to bring it to your business and sell it to them, you've got to speak in a language that they can relate to. And that's where Toastmasters comes in. It helps you speak a language that your audience can understand. And the best part about Toastmasters that I found out is that you can practice your communication skills in a safe and comfortable environment with like-minded people who will give you strong feedback in a not so critical way, in a constructive format that you can actually use that will help you get better at public speaking. Yeah.
Yes, that's very correct. I was speaking to someone at work, and in the end, who are the people? I mean, you can be the best developer or coder in the world, but if you can't communicate or get along with people, then people just think that people don't even like you, won't even like you, or won't even want to work with you. And one thing Toastmasters does is because you're interacting with different people all the time, you're getting feedback too. That makes you a stronger, better person.
Yes.
It also improves your listening skills because you also have to give feedback yourself. Everybody is not just one. It's not just one directional. You have to also evaluate other people's speeches. So that's the great thing about Toastmasters. It's such a great. I don't know who had that initial idea of setting up the club that way, but it's a genius idea. I love it. And I wish every company can implement such a structure because in that case, you always have great companies.
I agree with you. I think in New York City, at least, we have a lot of corporates that have their own Toastmaster clubs. And the idea is to facilitate or provide a platform for employees to come and, work and hone their communication skills.
Yes.
Because it actually contributes back at
It
work.
does.
It increases your productivity. It improves your overall performance. Now, the best thing about Toastmasters, and I think you brought it up when you mentioned feedback, you can be the evaluator to someone else. It makes you think analytically. It makes you think critically about not just listen to the other person, but also look for points of improvement, also look for their strengths and present it to them in a format that is acceptable and not too critical. And it helps you be the same at work. You think twice before you provide feedback. And we use a technique called the sandwich technique, where you sandwich your criticism between two pieces of praise or appreciation. It makes it so much easier for the other person to digest, right? But the other thing that you mentioned, going to speech contest, that is such an amazing way to grow. I was part of the speech contest 1 year. I've only been there, I think, once. I went through several levels,
Yes.
and what I saw change in me was my ability to absorb more feedback. Because I've been to many clubs, people give you feedback, people tell you what they want to tell you. And initially, it kind of hurts because it's your story, but someone's saying you need to change it a certain way. But over time, it helped me become more practical. And I saw how that feedback actually made my story, the end product, much, much better.
Much better.
And
Yes.
that's what I took away from Toastmasters. So at work tomorrow or today, if I get some feedback, I don't feel as bad. I'm like, wait, that feedback is actually going to improve and strengthen my end product. This is going to help me.
Yes.
I took that away from Toastmasters.
Yes, I agree with you because that's what they call it, constructive feedback. As long as you're not like putting somebody down or making the first person feel bad, as long as the feedback is constructive, it makes you, as you said, build a better product. It makes you a better person. So why not? I know some people in my Toastmasters club who they don't even want you to only say good things. They tell you, tell me the bad things that I did. I want to improve, which is good. And these are great speakers, but they still want to improve. So that's very, very good for generally for, and it may helps you look up to them and want you also want to improve and be like them. So that's great. So I've not even been 1 year in the Toastmasters Club, but I've seen a huge impact in my life, and I really love the Toastmasters Club. I don't know why I didn't join 10 years ago, but I guess it's never too late. Life is a life learning process. You're never too old to learn. You can always keep improving yourself.
Yes, and I believe Toastmasters is a perfect place for anyone to practice
Yes.
their communication skills. It's open to everyone, regardless of your background, your
Correct.
experiences, or what age you are. You can start anytime. It's full of people with varying degrees of experience, so you can actually learn from other members in the club. You can have a mentor, like you mentioned, who can
Yes.
coach you, but you can also just learn from different people's speaking styles. It's always
Yes.
a mix of native speakers and non-native speakers. So there's that advantage. We bring different viewpoints to the table. We have different communication styles, and you can get inspired by that.
Yes. So I have a question for you now. How did you become the podcast chair for Toastmasters?
Toastmasters.
Yes.
Well, it's interesting that you asked this question. In 2020, when we went into a lockdown in New York City,
Okay.
I have this urge to do something. Like, I mean, I want to contribute in some way, but I don't know how. We're all locked down. We can't step out of the house. And that's when I saw in my local Facebook community a lot of people coming out to help those who were in need. And I'm like, this is amazing. There are people here helping others, but the media is full of really negative and very scary news.
Yes.
And rightfully so. Rightfully so, they were trying to raise awareness about the gravity of the situation at the time. But there were good things happening in pockets in our society. And I'm like, if I could just find a way to raise awareness around this, it would be so good for people's morale. And I got the idea to start my own podcast called Heroes of New York.
Yes.
So I started it in my bedroom right here during the
Oh,
lockdown. Obviously, I had a lot more time at the time. And, we were not stepping out of the house. And I started to interview people that I knew. And slowly, by word of mouth, I got more and more guests to come on the show. And I did 2 seasons for Heroes of New York.
oh,
Obviously, then the world started to open up. My regular job got more hectic and I took a pause. Um, and that's when Jon Paul, our district director, got in touch with me asking if I would be interested in hosting the second season for Transformational Pathways. And I was more than happy because I've had some experience hosting a podcast and I am part of Toastmasters, and District 46 has given me a lot. And a lot of friends, a lot of support while I was in, the speech contest 2 years back. And I was definitely happy to serve the community and the district, and here I am.
oh, sounds great. Bravo to you. How long have you been at Toastmasters again?
Well, I joined in 2018, interestingly, through my employer. At the time, I was working with UNICEF, and UNICEF has its own club. It's not a corporate club; it's an open club, so anyone can join UNICEF's, UNICEF's club. It runs during the weekday, during lunch hours, and I was very happy because it was so convenient. I just had to walk few floors down, and there I was in the club, and we would meet once every 2 weeks. You get an opportunity to give a speech and get feedback and meet more people in the office. And that's how I started my journey. After 2019, I joined Lace Toastmasters as well, which is based out of Brooklyn, and LACE stands for Ladies Advancing Communication Excellence. So it's exclusively for women, and I find that the combination of clubs, and this is something that I would like to share with all of our listeners. You can join as many clubs as you want, and different clubs have different personalities, if I can say so. So the LACE Club, for example, focuses on women who want to advance their comm skills. Well, there are clubs that are meant for advanced speakers. There are clubs that focus on debates. So there are different kinds of clubs catering to different needs, and you can browse through the clubs on the Toastmasters International website and pick something that you prefer or that you like. You can just go check them out as a guest. Most clubs, and almost all clubs, I believe, allow you to come in as a guest more than once. And you can just visit them until you feel like, oh, this is what I want to do, or this is a club that I want to be a part of, and sign up, right? So,
Is there a club for like us techies?
I'm
Like,
sorry?
is there a club for technology people?
You know what? I'm sure there is one. There are so many tech companies in and around New York City alone that have Toastmaster clubs. And invariably, because of the demographics, it could tend to be that way. But I need to check this out before I answer in the affirmative that there is a club that's exclusively for tech,
Okay.
right? Yeah. But the other aspect of Toastmasters is leadership. You can play a role in your club. And you mentioned that you've played several roles already, and that kind of strengthens your leadership capabilities and shows you what you can do outside of just public speaking. Because when you bring public speaking and leadership together, that becomes a very formidable combination.
Yes. So true. I totally agree. Eventually, I would like to give a TED talk. That's my goal, but I'm still working on that. So that would be great. So hopefully, Toastmasters will help me on that journey. Being a DTM also. Those are all my goals.
Wait, Stella, can you tell us a little bit more about what is a DTM and how was that journey for you?
I'm not a DTM, sorry. I'm aiming to be a DTM. So currently I'm on the path. Apparently you have to finish 2 transformational paths. A DTM means distinguished Toastmaster. So you have to have a leadership role for 1 year, like be a district director, and then also finish 2 paths. I'm currently about halfway done or almost done with my first path, and I'm going to start the second path as well. So it would take about a year or 2 to finish, and I should be on my way.
Yes, and you sound very determined. I can see you achieving it already.
Thank you.
With that. Distinguished Toastmaster is the highest level you can achieve in the Toastmasters program for our listeners, right? Of course, you can continue to play other roles. Nobody retires just because they become a DTM. It's
Yes.
the highest title you get, and it's not easy, but it's also challenging and exciting
Yes.
to be on, right? So, Stella, before we wind up for the day, what are your final words of advice to our listeners?
So my final words, if you're still contemplating being a Toastmaster, don't waste time. Join the Toastmasters Club. At least see what the club is about. Everyone can be a great public speaker. You don't have to, it's all practice. There's all a science behind it. You need to tell your stories, include your pauses, speak powerfully, and use your hand gestures. That's all. That's pretty much what it is in a nutshell. So please do not waste your time or hesitate. Join a Toastmasters Club today. It will be a life-changing experience, and I can promise you that. Thank you.
Spot on, Stella. Speak powerfully. Use your voice. And let Toastmasters help you find your voice. Yes.
Correct. Very correct. Toastmasters has somehow helped me find my voice. I remember when one thing is I lost an aunt of mine, and I was so devastated, and I had to give a speech just to say some words about her, and I couldn't because I was so scared of speaking in public. I wish I'd joined Toastmasters at that time. I probably would have had more courage to do that speech. But again, Toastmasters has given me the confidence to be here, to even do this. I wouldn't normally do something like this, or I wouldn't even normally enter a speech contest, but I did because of Toastmasters. So I thank you, Toastmasters, for all that you've done for me as of now. And I hope to achieve greater things.
Thank you, Stella. It was a true honor to have you on our show today. I'm sure our listeners are inspired to take the next step in their public speaking journey.
Thank you, and it's an honor to be with you too, as well, to share my experience about Toastmasters, such a great club. Thank you, Anna. And keep on with doing your great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us on Transformational Pathways. If you enjoyed today's episode or got anything out of it, please rate, review, and subscribe. And if you're interested in learning more about Toastmasters District 46, check out the link in the show notes below.